The council chamber stretched across 300 meters of polished metal and floating holographic displays, each one showing a different sector of the galaxy that humanity had only recently learned existed beyond their own small corner of space. Ambassador Daniel Cross sat in the outer ring of seats, the area reserved for the newest and least important members of the Galactic Council, watching as species who had traveled the stars for thousands of years debated matters that would affect billions of lives across hundreds of worlds. 15 years ago, humanity had made first contact with the Vrin, an ancient race of four-armed beings who had been exploring the galaxy since before humans learned to make fire. And that meeting had changed everything for Earth. The Vrin had offered membership in the Galactic Council, a chance to join the civilized species of the galaxy, and humanity had accepted with enthusiasm and hope for a brighter future among the stars. But 15 years of membership had taught Daniel that hope and reality were often very different things, especially when dealing with species who measured their histories in millennia, while humanity still counted theirs in mere centuries. The Outer Rim mandate will require all member species to contribute military forces, High Chancellor Vexter announced, his scaled face showing barely concealed contempt as his eyes swept past the human delegation without pausing. The Thakarian leader commanded respect from the older council members, his species having held power in this region of space for over 6,000 years. Daniel stood, activating his speaking platform with a gesture that still felt awkward despite years of practice. Earth requests a 6-month extension to prepare our forces for deployment, he said, keeping his voice steady and professional despite the knot of frustration building in his chest. Our shipyards are currently denied, Vexter interrupted, his translator rendering his words with harsh finality. The newer members seem to forget that council membership carries responsibilities, not just privileges. Perhaps if humanity had focused less on expansion and more on integration, you would be prepared for such basic obligations. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber, and Daniel felt his jaw tighten as several alien delegates nodded their various heads, tentacles and sensory organs in approval of the Thakarian's words. Lauren Mitchell, sitting beside Daniel as Earth's military liaison, activated her own platform. With respect, High Chancellor, we're not refusing to contribute, she said, a voice carrying the controlled calm of someone who had spent 20 years in the military before joining the diplomatic corps. We're simply requesting time to. Your request has been denied, Director Zalketh announced from his position at the center of the chamber, his forearms folding across his chest in a gesture that Daniel had learned meant the discussion was over. The vote has been recorded, and Earth will comply with the standard deadline like every other member species. Lauren's hand clenched on the armrest of her seat, but she sat down without another word, knowing that further protest would only make things worse. The meeting continued with discussions of trade routes and territorial claims. And when Earth's petition regarding unauthorized Confederation patrols came up for review, Daniel felt a spark of hope that perhaps this issue would receive better treatment. Our mining colonies near Titan have reported 17 separate incidents of Confederation vessels entering human-controlled space without permission, he explained, bringing up holographic evidence that showed clear violations of the territorial agreements. These patrols have disrupted our operations, and your territorial claims are still under review, a delegate from the Korthi delegation interrupted, their crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into rainbow patterns. Until the Council finalizes the boundaries of human space, which our projections indicate will take another decade at minimum, such complaints are premature. A decade, Lauren repeated, disbelief clear in her voice, despite her attempt to maintain diplomatic composure. We've been waiting for territorial recognition for 8 years already, and you'll wait as long as necessary, Vexter said, his tone dismissive. The Council must thoroughly evaluate all claims, especially from species who have only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Your impatience is noted and typical of your kind." Daniel stood again, feeling the weight of failure pressing down on his shoulders as he prepared to make one more attempt to be heard. "High Chancellor, Director, Honored Delegates," he began, forcing himself to meet the eyes of beings who looked at humanity as nothing more than primitive newcomers. "Earth has tried to be a cooperative member of this council. We followed the rules, paid our dues, and contributed to the common good despite receiving little in return. All we ask is to be treated with the same respect afforded to other member species." Zalkith's laughter echoed through the chamber, a harsh clicking sound that his translator didn't bother to soften. "Respect is earned over time, Ambassador Cross, not demanded after a mere 15 years. Perhaps humanity joined this council prematurely, before you were truly ready for the responsibilities and patience required in galactic governance." His forearms gestured dismissively. "Your species is aggressive, short-lived, and prone to emotional outbursts. These are not qualities that serve diplomacy well." Several council members voiced their agreement, and Daniel felt something inside him finally break, not in anger but in clarity. He had spent 15 years trying to make this work, trying to prove that humanity deserved a place among the galactic community, and in return, Earth had been dismissed, delayed, and disrespected at every turn. "Then perhaps you're right," Daniel said quietly, his voice cutting through the murmurs of conversation. The chamber fell silent, surprised by his sudden calm. "Perhaps humanity did join prematurely, and perhaps we need to reconsider our membership." Zalkith's eyes narrowed. "What are you saying, Ambassador?" "I'm saying that Earth will be exercising its right to withdraw from the Galactic Council, effective immediately," Daniel announced, his words clear and final. "We will honor our existing trade agreements with individual species, but we will no longer participate in Council governance or submit to Council authority." The chamber erupted in shocked conversations, dozens of species talking at once in languages that the translators struggled to keep up with. Vexter's face showed surprise that quickly morphed into amusement. "You're making a mistake," Zalkith said, rising to his full 3-meter height. "Without the Council's protection and trade networks, Earth will struggle. You'll come crawling back within months, begging for readmission." Daniel gathered his documents and gestured for Lauren to follow him. "We'll see who needs whom, Director," he said, turning toward the exit. "This is foolishness," Vexter called after them. "Your primitive species cannot survive alone in a galaxy you barely understand. You need us far more than we need you." Daniel paused at the doorway, looking back at the assembled delegates who had spent 15 years treating humanity as an inconvenient afterthought. "Maybe we do," he acknowledged. "Or maybe you're about to learn what humans do when we're pushed into a corner. History suggests you might be surprised." He walked out of the chamber with Lauren beside him, leaving behind the laughter and dismissive comments that followed their departure. The massive doors sealed behind them with a hiss of pressurized air. Lauren waited until they were in the privacy of their shuttle before speaking. "They're going to make this difficult," she said, watching the council station grow smaller in the viewport. "Let them try," Daniel replied, his mind already racing ahead to the conversations he would need to have with Earth's leadership. "We've spent 15 years playing by their rules and getting nowhere. It's time we reminded the galaxy what humanity does best." "What's that?" Lauren asked. Daniel smiled, but there was no humor in it, only determination. "We adapt, we innovate, and we prove everyone who underestimated us completely wrong. Contact Admiral Torres the moment we're in range. Tell him to start the project we discussed. The Council thinks we need them, but in 2 years, they're going to learn just how wrong they are." The shuttle jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving the Council station and humanity's failed attempt at diplomatic integration behind. But Daniel Cross wasn't running away. He was going home to build something that would ensure Earth never had to beg for respect again. 2 years had passed since Earth walked away from the Galactic Council, and in the grand scheme of galactic politics, that was barely a blink of an eye. Most council members had already forgotten about humanity's dramatic exit, assuming the young species would return eventually with apologies and acceptance of their subordinate position. Commander Ryan Blake stood in the intelligence center of the Council's Central Command, reviewing reports that were beginning to paint a very different picture. Director Zalketh needs to see this, he told his assistant, highlighting several sections of data that had been trickling in over the past 6 months. In the director's office an hour later, Blake presented his findings to a room full of senior council members. Earth has ceased all communication regarding military developments, he explained, bringing up holographic displays that showed massive gaps in their intelligence gathering. Human ships no longer use council-approved faster-than-light routes, and we've detected energy signatures in the Sol system that far exceed anything they should be capable of producing. Zalketh leaned back in his chair, his forearms folded in a gesture of unconcern. Commander Blake, you're seeing problems where none exist, he said dismissively. Humanity has limited resources and even more limited understanding of advanced physics. These energy signatures are probably failed experiments or industrial accidents. Vaxter nodded in agreement, his scaled features showing amusement. Our scouts have confirmed there's no unusual military buildup in human space, he added. They're likely struggling without council support, too proud to admit they made a mistake by leaving. Blake wanted to argue, to point out that the lack of visible military buildup might itself be cause for concern, but he recognized the futility of challenging the council's assumptions. These beings had ruled the galaxy for so long that they couldn't imagine a newcomer species presenting any real challenge. What the council didn't know, what their scouts hadn't discovered, was happening in orbital facilities above Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. Admiral Kevin Torres walked through the main construction bay of Facility 7, watching as thousands of workers and automated systems assembled vessels that represented humanity's answer to 15 years of dismissal and disrespect. How many are operational? He asked Engineering Chief Brandon Cooper, who stood beside him reviewing status reports on a portable display. 43 capital ships fully operational, another 67 in final assembly stages, Cooper replied, pride evident in his voice. We'll have the full fleet of 200 ready within 3 months, exactly on schedule. Torres nodded, studying the nearest vessel with satisfaction. The ship was unlike anything the Council had ever built, and that was entirely intentional. While the Galactic Council relied on designs refined over thousands of years, humanity had started from scratch with no preconceptions about what was or wasn't possible. In another facility on the far side of Earth's moon, Dr. Amanda Foster ran another test of the weapon system that would revolutionize space combat. Quantum field stability holding at 98%. Her assistant called out as energy readings spiked across their monitoring equipment. Fire when ready, Amanda instructed, watching through reinforced viewports as the test platform powered up. The weapon didn't produce the bright plasma bolts or particle beams that Council ships used. Instead, it manipulated the fabric of space-time itself, creating localized distortions that could tear apart enemy vessels or disable their systems, without leaving a trace of conventional weapons fire. The test target, an old cargo hauler scheduled for decommissioning, simply collapsed in on itself as the quantum field compressed the space it occupied. Perfect, Amanda said, making notes on her tablet. Begin integration with the fleet. I want every ship equipped with full offensive and defensive quantum systems within 2 months. The breakthrough had come 18 months ago when Amanda realized that Council physics had stagnated, comfortable with what they knew and uninterested in exploring alternatives. Humanity, unburdened by thousands of years of established theory, had approached the problem from a completely different angle. Aboard the UES Defiance, the fleet's designated flagship, Captain Nicole Harris ran her crew through combat drills that would have been considered impossible by Council standards. "All hands, prepare for high-gravity maneuver Sequence 7, she announced over the ship's communication system. The crew strapped into their reinforced acceleration couches as the ship's engines powered up to levels that would incapacitate most alien species. Humans had evolved on a heavy-gravity world with a hostile environment, and that evolutionary heritage now became a tactical advantage. While Council crews needed extensive gravity compensation systems, human crews could operate under sustained forces that would kill their alien counterparts. "Damage control teams, you have 30 seconds to reach engineering deck and repair the simulated breach," Nicole ordered, watching as her people moved through the ship at speeds that took full advantage of humanity's death world origins. The drill ended with all objectives completed ahead of schedule, and Nicole allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. The Council had dismissed Earth's military potential, not understanding that humans had been fighting and surviving in conditions far harsher than anything space could throw at them. Meanwhile, in the civilian sectors of human-controlled space, the economy was booming in ways that surprised even Earth's own economists. Free from Council regulations that limited trade with non-member species, human corporations had found new markets and new opportunities across the galaxy. Independent traders from dozens of species flocked to human stations, attracted by fair prices and innovative products that Council restrictions had previously prevented. The Nixari, a peaceful species that had long felt marginalized by the Council's older members, became particularly close trading partners with humanity. The Council assumes we're suffering without them, President Elizabeth Grant said during a secure conference with Earth's military and scientific leadership. "Instead, we're thriving, and that's going to make our return all the more shocking." Speaking of our return, Admiral Torres interjected, bringing up a tactical display that showed the positions of every Council member's home system. "I've finalized the deployment plan. When we're ready to make our move, we'll be able to position our forces at strategic points throughout Council space simultaneously." "And you're certain this won't be seen as an act of war?" the President asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "We won't fire unless fired upon," Torres assured her. "This is a demonstration of capability, not an invasion." The Council needs to understand that Earth is no longer the weak newcomer they remember, and the only way to make them understand is to show them what we've become. Lieutenant Marcus Chun, Torres's aide, spoke up from his position near the holographic display. "Sir, are we really going through with this? Once we reveal our capabilities, there's no going back to the way things were." Torres turned to face the younger officer. "Lieutenant, the way things were had us begging for scraps from species that saw us as primitives," he said firmly. "We tried diplomacy, we tried patience, and all we got was contempt. Now we're going to show them that underestimating humanity was the biggest mistake they could have made." Amanda Foster joined the conversation via video link from her laboratory. "The quantum systems are ready for fleet-wide deployment," she announced. "I've also prepared a full technical briefing that we can offer to the Council as a show of good faith after we've established our position." Good faith? Vexter would probably choke on those words. Lauren Mitchell commented with a wry smile. She had returned to Earth after the walkout and now served as the President's chief advisor on galactic affairs. "Let him choke," Daniel Cross said, entering the conference room and taking his seat. "We offered good faith for 15 years, and it got us nowhere. This time, we're offering them a choice. Treat us as equals or watch as we build our own power structure outside their control." The President looked around the table at the people who had worked tirelessly for 2 years to make this moment possible. "Then it's decided," she said. "Admiral Torres, prepare the fleet for deployment." Ambassador Cross, prepare your speech to the Council. In 1 month, Earth returns to galactic politics, and this time, we're not asking for permission. High above Earth, the fleet continued to take shape. Row after row of identical warships, each one a testament to human ingenuity and determination, floated in formation like a promise waiting to be kept. They weren't the most elegant ships in the galaxy, and they weren't built for speed or beauty. They were built to be relentless, unstoppable, and undeniable. They were built to ensure that when Earth spoke, the galaxy would listen. Brandon Cooper stood at the viewport of the construction facility, watching the ships that would change everything. They wanted to see what happens when humanity is alone in the dark. He murmured to himself, "We're about to show them exactly what we do. We adapt, we overcome, and we come back stronger than anyone imagined possible." The countdown to Earth's return had begun, and the Galactic Council had no idea what was coming. The council chamber was in the middle of a routine session, discussing trade tariffs and mining rights in the outer territories, when the first alarm sounded. Director Zalkith looked up from the holographic documents floating before him, his forearms tensing as security alerts flooded the command systems. Unknown fleet detected at the edge of Catherine space, the security officer announced, her crystalline form flickering with agitation. Configuration doesn't match any known council formation patterns. Put it on the main display, Zalkith ordered, expecting to see perhaps a pirate group or an independent trading convoy that had strayed too close to the neutral zone. What appeared on the massive view screen made every delegate in the chamber fall silent. Row after row of identical warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, their hulls dark and angular, covered in weapons arrays that didn't match any design in the Council's extensive military database. The formation was perfect, each ship positioned with mathematical precision, and at the center of the fleet sat a vessel twice the size of the Council's largest dreadnought. How many ships? Vexter demanded, his usual composure cracking as he stared at the display. 187 capital ships, with support craft bringing the total to over 300 vessels, the security officer reported, her voice trembling slightly. Energy signatures are off the scale. These ships are generating more power than entire Council battle groups. Commander Ryan Blake was already at his station, running every scan and analysis program available. "I'm detecting quantum field fluctuations around each vessel," he said, disbelief coloring his professional tone. "That technology doesn't exist. We abandoned quantum weaponry research centuries ago because it was deemed too unstable." The view screen flickered as an incoming transmission request arrived. Zalkith hesitated for only a moment before accepting it, and suddenly Daniel Cross's face appeared on every screen in the council chamber. He looked older than he had 2 years ago, his face carrying lines of stress and determination that hadn't been there during his last appearance before the council. Behind him, the bridge of what was clearly a military vessel bustled with activity, human crew members moving with practiced efficiency. "Director Zalkith, honored council members," Daniel said, his voice carrying none of the diplomatic softness it had held during his previous tenure. "Earth requests permission to address the council on matters of mutual importance." Zalkith's shock was giving way to anger. "What is the meaning of this, Ambassador Cross? You bring a military fleet to the council's doorstep and expect to be welcomed?" "I expect to be heard," Daniel replied calmly. 2 years ago, I walked out of that chamber because Earth's voice didn't matter to you. I'm back to ensure that our voice will never be dismissed again." Vexter stood, his scales flushing with rage. "This is an act of war. You dare threaten the council with military force?" "Not a threat, High Chancellor," Daniel corrected. "A demonstration. Earth has returned, not to beg for readmission as a subordinate member, but to renegotiate the terms of our engagement with the galactic community." The image split as Admiral Kevin Torres appeared beside Daniel on the screen. Let me be clear about our position, he said, his military bearing evident in every word. Earth demands full territorial recognition, equal voting rights, and an immediate end to unauthorized patrols in human-controlled space. The fleet you see surrounding this station represents 1/3 of Earth's total military capacity. The other fleets are currently positioned at strategic points throughout Council space. The Council chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages, some demanding immediate military response, others calling for calm. Zalkith struggled to restore order, his forearms raised in a gesture that usually commanded instant silence but now barely made an impact. You cannot dictate terms to this council, Zalkith finally managed to say over the noise. We have maintained peace in this galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not be intimidated by a species that only yesterday learned to leave their own star system. Then perhaps it's time for new leadership, Daniel said, and his words cut through the chaos like a blade. A leadership that recognizes strength when it appears, that values innovation over tradition, and that treats all member species with genuine respect. Vexter slammed his fist on his console. You speak of respect while pointing weapons at us. Security, mobilize the defense fleet. Teach these primitives what happens when they challenge the established order. I wouldn't recommend that, Captain Nicole Harris said, her image appearing on the screen alongside Daniel and Torres. Any aggressive action will be met with overwhelming defensive response. We have no desire to fire the first shot, but we will not allow this fleet to be threatened. 3 Thakarian heavy cruisers moved to intercept, their plasma cannons charging as they approached the human formation. The council delegates watched in tense silence as the confrontation developed. Human vessels, withdraw immediately, or we will open fire, the Thakarian commander broadcast on all channels. Negative, Nicole responded. We are in neutral space, as is your own fleet. Stand down, and no one needs to get hurt. The Thakarian cruisers fired, sending streams of superheated plasma toward the nearest human ships. What happened next would be analyzed and discussed in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The human vessels didn't dodge or retreat. They advanced in perfect formation, their point defense systems intercepting every plasma bolt with precision that seemed impossible. Energy barriers flared around each ship as the defensive systems proved vastly superior to anything the Council had seen before. Then, without firing a single conventional weapon, the human ships executed a coordinated maneuver that defied everything the Council knew about space combat. Quantum field generators activated simultaneously, creating localized space-time distortions around each Thakarian vessel. The enemy ships spun out of control as the gravity fields around them shifted and twisted. Systems went offline across all 3 cruisers as the quantum pulse disrupted their power cores without causing permanent damage. Within 90 seconds, the Thakarian fleet was adrift, completely disabled but with no casualties and minimal structural damage. As you can see, Admiral Torres said calmly, we have the capability to destroy your vessels, but chose instead to disable them. The crews are unharmed, and the ships can be repaired. This is not an act of war. It's a demonstration of what Earth has become in 2 years of independence. Zalkith stared at the display showing his disabled warships, finally understanding that the situation had changed in ways he hadn't imagined possible. How did you develop this technology? He asked quietly. By starting from scratch, Amanda Foster said, joining the transmission. While the Council refined 10,000-year-old designs, we built new ones with no preconceptions. Your technology is elegant and proven, but it's also predictable and stagnant. Humanity approached the problem differently, and the results speak for themselves. What do you want? Zalkith asked, and for the first time in millennia of Council leadership, his voice carried genuine uncertainty. We want what we've always wanted, Daniel answered. To be treated as equals, to have our voices heard, and to contribute to the galactic community without being dismissed as primitives. The fleet you see isn't here to conquer anyone. It's here to guarantee that Earth will never again be ignored or disrespected. And if we refuse your demands? Baxter asked, though his earlier bluster had faded considerably. Then we'll build our own alliance with the species who are tired of Council arrogance, Daniel said. We've already established trade relationships with dozens of independent worlds. Many of them are interested in our technology, our fair trading practices, and our willingness to treat them as partners rather than subordinates. The Council can adapt and accept Earth as an equal member, or you can watch as we create an alternative power structure that values innovation and mutual respect. Admiral Torres gestured to the tactical display. We can destroy your fleets, occupy your key systems, and force compliance through military superiority, he said bluntly. But we won't, because that would make us no better than the empire builders humanity has fought throughout our history. Instead, we're offering you a choice. Negotiate with us as equals, or become irrelevant as the galaxy moves forward without you. The council chamber fell silent as the weight of humanity's ultimatum settled over the assembled delegates. For 10,000 years, the council had been the ultimate authority in this region of space. Now, a species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers had returned with the power to challenge that authority and the restraint to offer partnership instead of conquest. We need time to discuss this, Zolketh finally said. You have 3 days, Daniel replied. The fleet will maintain position here. We won't move unless provoked, but we also won't leave until we have an answer. Earth walked out of this council 2 years ago because we weren't respected. We've returned with the means to demand that respect. How you respond will determine whether the galaxy enters a new era of cooperation or watches as the old order crumbles. The transmission ended, leaving the council delegates staring at the image of Earth's fleet surrounding their station. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. 3 days passed with Earth's fleet maintaining perfect position around Kethra Prime. And those 3 days felt like an eternity to the council delegates, who watched the human warships through every available sensor. News of the standoff spread across the galaxy at faster than light speed, with dozens of species watching to see how the ancient council would respond to this unprecedented challenge. Inside the council chambers, the debate raged with an intensity that hadn't been seen in centuries. Speaker Lyrasol of the Nixari delegation stood before her fellow council members, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with agitation. We must negotiate, she insisted, her voice carrying across the chamber. The humans have demonstrated both capability and restraint. They could have destroyed our defense fleet but chose not to. That shows wisdom, not aggression. Vexter slammed his fist on the table, his patience clearly exhausted. They show arrogance, not wisdom. We cannot allow a species barely out of their home system to dictate terms to civilizations that ruled the stars before their ancestors learned to make tools. And yet they have weapons we cannot defend against. Commander Ryan Blake interjected from his position at the intelligence station. I've been running analysis on their quantum systems for 3 days. Our shields cannot stop that technology. Our weapons cannot match their precision. And our ships cannot match their power output. Refusing to negotiate isn't brave. It's suicidal. Zolketh sat in his central chair, his forearms folded as he listened to arguments from both sides. For 10,000 years, the council had operated under certain assumptions about power, experience, and the natural order of galactic civilization. Earth had shattered those assumptions in a matter of minutes. What do we actually know about their capabilities? He asked, cutting through the debate. Blake brought up a holographic display showing the data they had collected. Their fleet generates energy signatures 30% higher than our best projections. The quantum weapons can disable ships without causing casualties. which suggests they could just as easily destroy those same ships if they chose to. They've positioned their other fleets at strategic points that would allow them to disrupt Council operations across 12 sectors simultaneously. But they haven't actually attacked anyone, Lirasol pointed out. 3 days with the power to destroy us, and they've done nothing but wait for our response. That's not the behavior of conquerors. Vexthor's expression showed frustration. It's the behavior of manipulators. They want us to feel grateful that they haven't killed us. We should mobilize the full Council fleet and drive them back to their primitive system. With what? Blake asked bluntly. Our analysis shows that Earth's military capacity exceeds the combined strength of the Council's 3 largest member fleets. Even if we could defeat them, the casualties would be catastrophic. And for what? To prove we won't negotiate with species we consider inferior? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Aboard the U.E.'s Resolution, Admiral Torres received constant updates from the other human fleets positioned throughout Council space. Any hostile movements? He asked Lieutenant Marcus Chun. Negative, sir, Chun replied. Several Council species have mobilized their home defense forces, but nothing that suggests an organized military response. Actually, we're receiving private communication requests from over 20 different species. What kind of communications? Torres asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Mostly diplomatic inquiries, Chun explained. The younger Council members want to know more about our technology. Some are asking about trade agreements. A few have expressed support for our position regarding equal treatment. Torres smiled slightly. The Council's authority is already cracking. Keep those channels open, but make it clear we're not negotiating with individual members until the Council makes a decision. In the Council's private chambers, away from the public debates, Zalkith arranged a face-to-face meeting with Daniel Cross. They met aboard a neutral transport, just the two of them in a small conference room that seemed almost claustrophobic compared to the Grand Council chambers. You've put me in an impossible position, Zalkith said without preamble. No, Daniel corrected. Your own arrogance put you in this position. I'm offering you a way out. Zalkath's forearms flexed with irritation. By accepting demands made at gunpoint? By recognizing that the galaxy has changed, Daniel replied. 2 years ago, Earth was weak and inexperienced. You were right to doubt us then. But we adapted, we innovated, and we became something you didn't expect. The question now isn't whether you were wrong to underestimate us. It's whether you'll continue making that same mistake. What does Earth truly want? Zalkith asked, leaning forward. And don't give me the diplomatic answer you've been broadcasting. What do you really want from this? Daniel considered the question carefully before answering. We want a matter, he said simply. For 15 years, we tried to be good Council members. We followed the rules, paid our dues, and contributed to the common good. And in return, we were dismissed, delayed, and treated like children who needed to wait their turn. We don't want to conquer the Council, and we don't want to destroy it. We just want to be treated with the same respect you show every other member species. And the fleet? Zalkith gestured toward the viewport where Earth's warships could be seen in the distance. That's quite a statement of peaceful intentions. The fleet is insurance, Daniel admitted. Insurance against ever being dismissed again. We could have come back with diplomats and trade agreements, begging for another chance. But you would have treated us the same way you did before. The fleet ensures you take us seriously. By threatening us. By demonstrating capability, Daniel corrected. We've had the power to destroy your defense forces for 3 days now. Have we fired a single aggressive shot? Did we kill anyone when we disabled the Thakarian cruisers? We're showing restraint precisely because we don't want war. But we also won't accept being treated as second-class members anymore. Zalkith stood and walked to the viewport, looking at the human fleet with new understanding. "You know this changes everything," he said quietly. "If we accept your terms, other species will demand the same treatment. The Council's traditional power structure will collapse." "Maybe it should," Daniel said. "How many species are out there right now, watching this standoff and hoping we succeed because they're tired of being ignored too?" The Council was built on the idea of cooperation and mutual benefit, but somewhere along the way, it became about maintaining the power of the founding members. "We're offering you a chance to return to those original principles." "And if we refuse?" Daniel's expression hardened. "Then we build our own alliance. We've already got interest from dozens of species. We'll trade with them, defend them, and treat them as equals. Eventually, the Council will become irrelevant, not because we destroyed it, but because we offered a better alternative." Zalkith turned to face the human ambassador. "You've thought this through very carefully." "We had 2 years to think," Daniel replied. "We used that time well. Now the question is, will you use these 3 days just as wisely?" The meeting ended without resolution, but both leaders understood that something fundamental had shifted. Zalkith returned to the council chambers and called for a vote on Earth's demands. The debate lasted another full day, with passionate arguments from all sides. Speaker Lyrasol led the faction supporting Earth's readmission, arguing that the council needed fresh perspective and innovation. Vexter led the opposition, insisting that accepting Earth's demands would set a dangerous precedent. But Commander Blake's analysis couldn't be ignored. Earth had the power to disrupt the council whether they liked it or not. The only question was whether that disruption would come through partnership or conflict. When the vote finally came, it wasn't unanimous. The Thakarian delegation voted against, as did several species closely aligned with them. But the majority supported accepting Earth's terms, recognizing that the alternative was far worse. Zalkith made the announcement personally, his forearm spread in a gesture of acceptance. "The Council has voted to accept Earth's demands," he said, and though his voice carried defeat, there was also a hint of respect. Humanity will receive full territorial recognition, equal voting rights, and guaranteed sovereignty in their controlled space. In exchange, Earth agrees to reduce its military presence to defensive levels and to share its technological advances through a joint research initiative. Daniel Cross received the news aboard the Resolution, surrounded by Admiral Torres, Captain Harris, and the senior staff who had worked so hard to make this moment possible. "We did it," Lauren Mitchell said, disbelief and triumph mixing in her voice. "No," Daniel corrected, looking at the faces of the people who had believed in Earth when the rest of the galaxy didn't. "We proved that respect isn't given. It's earned. And humanity just earned the right to stand as equals among the stars." The fleet began its withdrawal from Kethra Prime, each ship executing a formal salute to the Council station before jumping to faster-than-light travel. The message was clear. Earth had come in strength, demonstrated restraint, and achieved its goals without firing a shot in anger. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. 1 year after Earth's dramatic return to the Galactic Council, the galaxy looked very different than it had during humanity's first attempt at membership. Ambassador Daniel Cross sat in the main council chamber, not in the outer ring reserved for junior members, but at the central table where decisions affecting billions of lives were made. The current debate concerned mining rights in the Kelvar Nebula, and when Daniel raised his hand to speak, Director Zalkith acknowledged him immediately without the dismissive delays that had characterized their earlier interactions. "Earth proposes a joint development project," Daniel said, bringing up holographic displays that showed detailed resource assessments. "Rather than assigning exclusive rights to one species, we could pool our technologies and share the benefits. The human quantum drilling systems combined with Vrin, Extraction methods and Nixari refining processes would triple efficiency. High Chancellor Vexter, still bristling with resentment over the events of the previous year, started to object but was cut off by Speaker Lyrosol. "The human proposal has merit," she said, her bioluminescent skin glowing with enthusiasm. "Cooperation benefits all parties more than competition. I support this initiative." The vote passed with surprising ease, and Daniel couldn't help but notice how different council sessions felt now. His voice carried weight, his proposals received serious consideration, and humanity's contributions to galactic governance were welcomed rather than merely tolerated. The change hadn't come easily, and it certainly hadn't been universally popular. The Thacarian delegation still voted against most human initiatives out of principle, and several older species remained suspicious of Earth's rapid rise to prominence. But respect, even grudging respect, was far better than dismissal. At the Joint Research Facility orbiting Titan, Dr. Amanda Foster worked alongside alien scientists who had once viewed human technology with contempt. A Vryn physicist named Carthan examined the quantum field generator with fascination, his forearms moving in gestures that Amanda had learned indicated deep thought. "Your approach to space-time manipulation is completely different from anything we attempted," he said, his translator rendering his clicking speech into understandable language. "We abandoned this research centuries ago because our methods proved unstable. But you started with different assumptions and reached different conclusions." "That's what happens when you don't know what's supposed to be impossible," Amanda replied with a smile. "We didn't know quantum weapons were considered too dangerous to develop, so we just focused on making them safe and reliable." Carthan made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "Ignorance as innovation. Perhaps the Council could benefit from more of that perspective." The research initiative had become one of the most successful aspects of Earth's reintegration. By sharing their technological advances, humanity had demonstrated that their return wasn't about hoarding power, but about genuine cooperation. The joint projects had already produced breakthroughs in propulsion systems, energy generation, and medical technology. Aboard the UES Resolution, now serving as flagship for a combined Earth Council patrol fleet, Captain Nicole Harris coordinated with her Nix-Ari tactical officer to respond to a pirate attack in the Outer Rim. The mixed crew worked together with practiced efficiency, human and alien personnel combining their strengths to protect civilian shipping. "Target their engines but avoid casualties," Nicole ordered, watching as her weapons officer lined up the shot with precision that would have been impossible without the quantum targeting systems. "Confirmed, disabled, but intact," the Nixari officer reported as the pirate vessel went dark. "Rescue operations commencing." It was a routine patrol, the kind that happened dozens of times across Council space every day, but it represented something profound. Human ships working alongside Council vessels, protecting the same trade routes and citizens, partners in maintaining galactic peace. In Earth's orbital shipyards, Engineering Chief Brandon Cooper oversaw construction of a new generation of vessels that incorporated both human innovation and Council experience. The designs were collaborative efforts, combining the relentless reliability of human engineering with the elegant efficiency of traditional Council technology. "How does it feel to be building ships for exploration instead of intimidation?" Lieutenant Marcus Chun asked, watching the construction crews work on a vessel designed for deep space scientific research. "Honestly, it feels amazing," Cooper admitted. "Don't get me wrong. I'm proud of what we built with the military fleet. It proved we could stand on our own. But building ships meant to discover rather than destroy. That's what I always wanted to do." The change wasn't limited to military and scientific cooperation. Human colonies throughout the galaxy experienced unprecedented growth as trade flowed freely and immigration brought new opportunities. Earth's universities welcomed alien students, and human scholars studied at ancient institutions that had once been closed to them. President Elizabeth Grant addressed the United Earth Assembly from the rebuilt Capitol complex. Her speech broadcast across human space and beyond. 1 year ago, we returned to the Galactic Council not as petitioners, but as equals, she said, her voice carrying pride and satisfaction. Some criticized our methods, arguing that we risked war to achieve diplomatic goals. But history has proven that sometimes the only way to earn respect is to demonstrate strength, tempered by restraint. Back at the council station, Daniel Cross met privately with Director Zolketh in what had become a regular occurrence. The two leaders had developed a working relationship built on mutual respect, though it had taken time and effort from both sides. "I owe you an apology," Zolketh said, surprising Daniel with his directness. "When you walked out 2 years ago, I laughed. I assumed humanity would fail without council support. I was wrong. You were operating on 10,000 years of experience," Daniel replied diplomatically. In that entire history, no species had ever successfully challenged the council's authority. We were the anomaly, not you. Perhaps, Zolketh acknowledged. But I should have recognized that humanity's rapid development suggested something different. Your species achieved in decades what took others millennia. That should have been a warning, not a reason for dismissal. "What matters is what happens now," Daniel said. "The council is changing, becoming more dynamic and responsive. Other species are finding their voices, inspired by Earth's example. That's good for everyone." Zolketh nodded his agreement. The Korthi delegation proposed their own initiative last week, something they never would have dared before. The younger species are becoming bolder, and surprisingly, I find myself supporting most of their ideas. Fresh perspective was exactly what this council needed. At the military academy on Mars, human and alien cadets trained together in programs that combine the best practices from dozens of species. A young recruit named Sarah Wells worked with her Rin partner on a tactical simulation. Their different approaches complementing each other perfectly. "Your species thinks so quickly," her partner commented after they successfully completed the exercise. Rin deliberation takes time, which makes us vulnerable in fast-changing situations. But working together, your speed and our experience create something neither could achieve alone. Sarah smiled at the compliment. "That's what cooperation is supposed to be about, right? We're all better together than we are apart." It was a simple observation from a young cadet, but it captured the fundamental truth that had taken the galaxy years to learn. Commander Ryan Blake, now serving as the Council's Chief of Integrated Intelligence, reviewed reports showing declining piracy rates, increased trade volumes, and improved diplomatic relations across multiple sectors. The data suggested that Earth's integration had catalyzed positive changes throughout the galactic community. We were so focused on maintaining tradition that we forgot why those traditions existed in the first place, he told his team during a briefing. The council was founded on cooperation and mutual benefit. Somehow we lost sight of that. Humanity forced us to remember. High Chancellor Vester remained one of the few voices still openly critical of Earth's role in the council, but even his opposition had softened over time. During a private conversation with Daniel, he admitted his grudging respect. "I still don't like how you forced this change," he said bluntly. "But I cannot deny the results. The council is more dynamic, trade is flourishing, and security has improved. Perhaps my species held too tightly to the old ways." "Change is always difficult," Daniel acknowledged, "especially for civilizations that have thrived under the existing system for thousands of years. But the galaxy keeps evolving, and we all need to evolve with it." As the anniversary of Earth's return approached, celebrations were planned across human space and beyond. The U's resolution would lead a ceremonial fleet review, showcasing vessels from every council member species. It would be a demonstration of unity rather than intimidation. Admiral Kevin Torres stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the mixed fleet assembled for the celebration. Human ships flew alongside Vryn dreadnoughts, Nyx Ari cruisers, and vessels from dozens of other species. It was the fleet he had dreamed of, not one built for conquest but for cooperation.